was 4 years old and I immigrated from basically central Sweden with my family. My dad had been an exchange student in the US when he was 17 years old, so he'd actually come over in the early 50s and then inspired to bring his family in the mid 70s. So we immigrated over. I'm one of nine.
Wow.
I'm sorry, one of four. I'm sorry, one of four kids. He was one of nine. So, yeah. My husband and I, Justin, have a very strong family connection with not only growing up as children and our mothers being best friends, but we have a very strong Scandinavian connection, which I would have to say influences most everything we do in terms of our families and the way we run our businesses. So. Garden Creek Ranch, my father-in-law bought this property in 1963, and he was actually one of the first to grow wine grapes in the valley in 1969. Wow. Yeah, alongside our very good friends Robert Young, who's just next door to us, and they've been here for 7 generations, as well as the Murphys and the Goods. They're a very old family that have been here. Yeah. Jordan Winery as well, started in 1972. We have very long-standing families that live in Alexander Valley. I feel like we're one of the more stoic valleys in Sonoma County in that way. And we also have larger land parcels. 100 acres, which is what we own, is actually one of the smaller land parcels. Wow. It's more a couple hundred acres. I mean, we have 40-acre minimums on any purchase of land in this appellation. But so we started wine growing in 1969. My family immigrated over, as I mentioned earlier. And we started wine growing as soon as we got here in 1977. And we started our winery just a year later. So my family's been making wine since the mid-70s. And then Justin's dad's been wine growing on this property for decades. And then he was never actually interested in making wine professionally on this property. He was strictly a wine grower, which we continue to be today. We've been growing grapes and selling our wine grapes to local wineries. And then Justin and I, we've been together now for 20 years this year in October.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
And especially when it's good. And so he and I started the winery 18 years ago in 2001. And we've been very focused since that year, focusing on, just being incredibly selective on what the choices we have in our vineyards. We have, and the beauty of what we do is that we grow our own grapes. And we are the winemakers. He and I make the wine together.
Oh, really?
We have both been growing grapes since we were kids. We've been chewing and eating grapes forever. And we began with this conversation in terms of understanding flavor is incredible education behind understanding what your memory is all about and understanding these intimate flavors that you are attracted to or not attracted to. So that's very simple, actually, in that terms of that explanation. But so Justin and I, what we do is chase flavors in our fields. We have 30 acres of vineyards, 7 different soil types, and there's different textures, there's different layering of tannin structure, acidity. So we do a Bordeaux blend as well as a Chardonnay, 100% Chardonnay and a Bordeaux blend. The Bordeaux blend is focused on Cabernet Sauvignon. And the Cabernet Sauvignon, we bring in anywhere from 7 to 9 different lots of Cabernet. And that is where we're chasing the flavors in the hillside vineyards that we own and have been growing since '69, and chasing the incredible flavors from the different locations. So it's a 24-hour, yeah. Although, yes, and we get this all the time. But my mom and dad were exactly the same way. Although my dad was the winemaker, but yeah, together it's. We've always been that way with each other, where we challenge each other constantly, and we both are incredibly ingrained in it and love what we do. But Justin, I can say we absolutely have delineations between what we do. And I handle the sales and marketing of the winery, run the winery. He runs the vineyards in terms of viticulture, handling the 8 employees we have, our crew in the vineyard. And then he and I together make the wine and make decisions and do all of everything, the labor, as well as making decisions on every step of the way. So
a true family winery.
Yeah, we love it. And we intentionally have kept it small. So we're at close to 1,500 cases today in production. Of the 75 acres, we could be easily at 20,000 plus cases if we took all the wine grapes from the property. But we choose to make We make age-worthy wines. We are, if we were to explain it in a few simple words, they're simply intelligent wines. We strive after the complications and finding them and simplifying them and making them very beautiful. We age our red wines, for example, for 7 years prior to release. We're incredibly serious in our winemaking.
Very serious.
Yeah. And it's actually a very old world. And what it actually, to us, it's the integrity of being a winemaker. It's an integrity to the wine.
Yeah.
And it's, we're artists. We are farmers to the core, but also we're crafting wines that are very indicative of who we are and where we stand and where our family has been living for the last 50 years. So that's important to us.
And that's a big deal for 50 years to look back at that.
Yeah, that's a big deal. Yeah. Yes and no. Your forefathers, our fathers knew what they knew in their time. And incredibly, my father-in-law was this meticulous writer. He wrote every single day, hand wrote into his journal about the weather, about what he did in the vineyards, about each and every piece of it. And that is incredibly beneficial for us. I can't say that I look at it every single day, but the weather has changed since we were kids, and now so there's challenges that are incredibly dramatic year to year. And being a farmer, you have to understand many things, and one being the weather, two, understanding geology and soils and drainage, and then understanding plants, how they function properly and how they're healthy, and understanding the business too, understanding how far you can go. So Justin took over the ranch when he was 19 years old. That was about 24 years ago. He is incredibly responsible, and he knew at that age too, and he knew that he had to make some switches and switch the viticulture practices at that time. We were conventionally farming, as many were in the old days, chemical fertilizers, trying to pump as much crop you could. And we only had 1 or 2 or 3 really lucrative wineries to sell to, one of them being Gallo, who was not easy to sell to. And it was going, so anyhow, back 25 years ago, Justin made a very forward thinking decision in the fact that he knew the capability and potential of our vineyards. So we are hillside vineyards, but it's straight up to the Mayacamas mountain range. We have an incredible diversity of soils, so there's great depth here. We're very far north and we're very far east, and it's very quiet too. Long roads with very few wineries, which can be a caveat in our marketing of the valley, but it's also the incredible beauty of this place is that I come back to that word of being stoic and having rich history with families that have been here for a long time and vineyards that have been here for a very long time. So, but the whole place of sustainable practices behind our vineyards, it's incredibly important for the longevity of our long-term vision, which is, yes, having our children take over and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren, because that's how serious we are. I think that's when you're incredibly dedicated to all that we do, but we're also incredibly dedicated to, this is not just a piece of property that we find to enjoy living. Absolutely, we love living here, but it's part of our psyche. It's part of our, it's part of us. So.